Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. The former title challenger Carlos Takam has left the door open to an Oleksandr Usyk fight, but at the same time he's also indicated that he's moved on completely. So we'll have to, see where this goes. But I want to get to his statement. A few things within it are quite interesting, but also to a few thoughts about Oleksandr Usyk in this fight on October 12th, because they're going to have to strap someone's feet to the floor and get them to sign a contract because it's all but 6 weeks away now. But to Carlos Takam's statement, so on Facebook, many months of preparation for the Usyk fight, but now the other camp seem not ready to put what it need to have it done. I am still more than ready to welcome him in the heavyweight division on the 12th October 2019, but only if it worth it. Some promoters are just thinking about themselves, not respectful at all for the boxers and the boxing. I've been off the ring for almost a year now, but I am more than in form and ready for the next challenge in my career. When a door closed, another open, I have committed the next step of my career to Star Boxing Inc. promotion with Joe DeGuardia. We promise very interesting fights soon. More information about the next fight will follow. Stay tuned. And then there's a whole bunch of different promotional companies, at different broadcasters. Some interesting stuff here, and you can sort of see here in the on screen. This is Carlos Takam, obviously a recent video that he's posted along with this statement of him running down a road with a tire to his back. He's getting a bit of speed up there, but this statement in general, it's a little bit conflicting on what it's sort of saying, because he's saying he's still open to it, but in the same breath, he kind of says he's moving on. Very interesting fights, coming soon, etc. So I don't really know what to make of this, but if he is in fact going to be in the running for this, well, they need to get the deal done soon. I actually thought this all sort of died about 10 days ago, because when it was announced he was signing with Star Boxing, and here's from his Twitter page, see, August 14th, Star Boxing signs Takam, help us in welcoming heavyweight world title contender at Carlos Takam at hashtag Team Star Boxing. And the quote here at the time from another tweet, I had several propositions on the table, but with Joe DeGuardia, the way I see it, I have a good feeling that we can achieve my potential together. At 38, and Carlos Takam sort of, starting to rack up the losses. I'm not sure where he's really going now. I think the only way is down. And I thought this fight with Oleksandr Usyk might have been really one of the last high-profile fights that he could probably secure for decent money and decent exposure. I think there is no way back to a title shot for Carlos Takam anymore. They call him a title contender, but I think those days are done now, and that ended with that Derek Chisora knockout, a fight he was winning before he gassed out and was taken out. And I think, Derek Chisora, no offense to Chisora, he's a high-level gatekeeper. He's around top 20 level, and if you're not good enough, he will beat you. But Chisora himself has come up short several times at world level. And Takam, I think, he has been slowing down in, the last year or two. He certainly hasn't looked nearly as good. And against Senad Gashi, he looked all of his, I think he was, 37 at that point. But yeah, I don't see this really going anywhere for Carlos Takam in terms of, if he's not taking the Usyk fight, what are these so-called fights that they're talking about? But getting back to the statement just for a moment, he's still prepared to work with whoever's involved here. This is Team Usyk and also Eddie Hearn, because Hearn co-promotes Oleksandr Usyk these days. Still more than ready to welcome him in the heavyweight division. I think a lot of us, and this had been certainly reported by a number of media outlets, that the Carlos Takam and Usyk fight was a done deal. A few weeks ago, it looked like it was a done deal, and that had been resurrected because they were meant to fight earlier this year, but then Usyk got injured, and it looked like Carlos Takam would remain the opponent, but then all of a sudden he signs with Star Boxing, and it looks like that sort of fell down, and Andrei Fedosov's name came into the mix. And then subsequently, there has been some word from Team Usyk that, while they have been talking to them and they've pretty much ironed out some sort of deal, they haven't committed to fighting Fedosov yet. So I'm not sure really what the hold-up is in terms of getting a fight done. And I think for Carlos Takam, reading between the lines here, this is seemingly about money. He wants more money to fight Oleksandr Usyk. And there's a shot here at promoters. Some promoters are just thinking about themselves and is not respectful at all for both the boxers and the boxing. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, that's obviously a shot at either Eddie Hearn or K2, who promotes Oleksandr Usyk, Alexander Krasjuk. I mean, whoever's been involved here, he obviously feels that he's getting the short end of the stick here, not being respected, not getting what he deserves for this fight. And maybe his demands have gone up since his that cancelled fight back in May, because, as he mentions, he's been out of the ring a year now. Maybe he felt that he should have got a little bit of extra on top for staying fresh, staying ready to fight Oleksandr Usyk when Usyk recovered from injury. But yeah, some of these, this whole atting everyone at the bottom here, I mean, what is this meant to sort of imply as well? That he's open for business, that he's with Star Boxing, he's available to fight on any platform. That's the only thing I can sort of take from that. But in terms of, is he really going to go anywhere with Star Boxing? He says he's committed the next phase of his career or step in his career to Star Boxing. With or without them, he was probably going to get no better fights than the Oleksandr Usyk one. I can only see him getting smaller money and probably less obscure sort of fights going forward, especially at the tail end of his career. Star Boxing, they're okay, but I don't think that they're all of a sudden going to build him up to a world title fight in the next year or two. If anything, I think Carlos Takam in the next year or two, maybe out of boxing, maybe out of heavyweight boxing, certainly is in the twilight of his career now. But for Oleksandr Usyk, I mean, I think for his first fight, Carlos Takam, very serviceable. So is Andrei Fedosov. Really, if you swap them out one for the other, does it make too much difference? Not really. It's kind of a like-for-like sort of move at this point. Fedosov, he's a decent heavyweight. Carlos Takam, he's a decent heavyweight. Both maybe not as good as they once were, but I do think they are certainly a decent name for Usyk to put on his resume, especially for a first fight at heavyweight. But they've got to get a deal done. And if Carlos Takam is really still in this, I mean, what's he doing sort of talking out in public, making these sorts of statements? Because as they sort of say, when the real deals are going on and nothing is happening out in public, it's all behind closed doors and it's all getting done, as opposed to venting seemingly some grievances here, even though he says he's still open to it. But at the moment, it's not really worth it for him, which can only translate to money. And that is often the sort of bane of the heavyweight division, but often what greases the wheels to get fights done. So it doesn't always work out. But I guess, for Carlos Takam, if we don't see that fight, well, I'm not going to, cry into my cereal about it or anything like that. But I do hope they do line someone up half decent for Usyk, because he needs a good test. If he is going to go straight into his WBO title fight after one fight at heavyweight, well, they better make sure that they're testing him with someone half decent. What do you make of this anyway? This Carlos Takam statement, he sort of indicates that he's still open to it, but then it's kind of closing the door as well. That's at least how I see it. But also, I mean, what's Carlos Takam really going to be doing in the heavyweight division with Star Boxing? I wouldn't have thought it would have been up to too much. I wouldn't have thought that sort of working off outside of, because he has been working with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, his options may be somewhat limited. Obviously, he thinks he can probably get some decent fights elsewhere, but that remains to be seen. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.